I want you to go to Isaiah 3. And the two scriptures that, and this touched my heart this morning, we read it this morning, and the two verses that really touched my heart this morning was 4 and 5. Now that's ones I'm going to read, but you're really going to have to read all of them to get the big picture. So, while I get my stool down here, you should have it read by the time I get down there.
You want the whole thing read, the whole chapter 3?
But you'll probably want to do it. I want to give you some more time. I'm going to read 4 first, 4 and 5. And then I want you to really read all of it. Because then the questions will really be more discussed that I've got. I will give children to be their princes, and babes shall rule over them. The people will be oppressed, everyone by another, and everyone by his neighbor. The child will be insolent toward the elder, and the base toward the honorable. Now the NIV version that I'm about to read will really open your eyes when I read it. And it says, I will make mere use their officials. Children will rule over them. People will oppress each other. Man against man, neighbor against neighbor. The young will rise up against the old, and the nobody against the honored. Now read the whole thing. While you're reading it, I want you, the first question I'm going to ask is, what is the significance of God appointing mere youths and children as leaders? Because it'll tell you the three. When you're ready to talk, you always start rapping. Phil make me talk no more, because every time he says something, I make him pray.
It's not easy to read, you know, we're not very good.
Well, suck it up, Buttercup. I'll go get a piece of candy. Last time I did that, I got in trouble for that. Why you put somebody in charge? Alan, if they have any questions, you take them. All right. You want a piece of candy while I'm back there? Is he going to text me back? All right, everybody should be finished reading it by now. It's not that lengthy. Think about it. What is the significance of God's appointing mere youths and children as our leaders? What's he trying to say?
They still have the innocence, they're not corrupted.
Okay, that's a good point. Good point. You want to dwell on that?
Well, I don't remember where it said in the Bible, it said, when Jesus was talking about the children, what did it say? It says something about we should be like the children because they are the something.
Okay, yes.
You know what?
Yes, I know what you're talking about. Yes, that's when the disciples were arguing about who's the best.
Right.
And God said, if you want to get to heaven, be like them.
Yes.
But in this instance, it's a good point that you bring. But in this instance, I really think he's a little angry. Okay, so he's trying to point out that they're immature, they're inexperienced. All right? And so in other words, he's punishing them. He's punishing the people. Because he says, I'm tired of your leadership. I'll just put the youth in charge. You know, I'm tired of what I'm seeing from you all, because what you're doing is not good.
Almost like they can't do no worse.
Right, there you go, that's the way to look at it, yes.
They also have a tendency to listen better than what the adults.
Which youth are you talking to?
Okay, so
Well, that
if I was to ask an add-on question to this, how might having immature, inexperienced leaders affect a society?
They're not going to make wise decisions. If they're inexperienced, particularly, they won't, but, I mean, that would be like putting an 18-year-old fresh out of high school in as the leader of a large corporation. He's not prepared for it.
I mean, that's why we have a stipulation as the minimum age for a president, it's 25.
I have a minimum IQ for it.
Okay, but good points, all of it, but you're spot on with this. So in punishing them with immature leadership, it's really hurting them, isn't it? Because it's going to hurt the society. Would it hurt a company if I put an 18-year-old in charge? It would, wouldn't it? And number one, he may come in here and just change the whole outlook, the whole atmosphere. Think about congressmen and senators that we have up there right now that are really young, that are taking this by like a job. You know, are they prepared to handle, or is our society changing because we got immature people up there? To them, it's a job. It's not about the people. They'll tell you it's about the people. They'll tell you those things.
Another point to remember is immaturity doesn't depend on age.
Okay, when you read 3, did you not see the big picture of the things that are going on in this world?
Oh, yeah.
Especially when you got down there at the bottom where it really got nasty. And they said how people dressed, how people were doing things. Oh, it's in there. We read about it this morning. But if you look at 4, 4 says, I will make mere use of their official, children will rule over them. That's what he's saying to the people. Now, how does this passage describe the consequences of the poor leadership? We've already talked about some ways. What do verse 4 and 5 suggest about the breakdown of social order? What's it suggest about the breakdown?
It talks about them opposing each other. It turns people against each other.
It does, doesn't it? Do we see that today?
Absolutely.
People going against each other, brothers against brothers, neighbor against neighbor, nation against nation, for no reason.
Well, the no reason part is very vivid when the leader of Russia decided that he wanted to take Ukraine over. And basically, from what I can see, it was just hey, look what I've got thing, instead of Ukraine didn't do anything to Russia.
No.
And as far as I can tell, I don't know that they have that much goods that Russia can plunder.
No.
We went in there, we started that, we helped initiate that to cover up the biolabs that we was using, that we was producing stuff over there.
There's a lot more into it.
There's a whole lot more into that than just on what you see on the surface.
You don't hear everything on the news, that's
I watch
true.
the news.
The news is fake.
All right, what about the part where it says the young will rise up against the old? Do you see that?
Oh, yeah.
What is that? Do you see the disrespect daily from the youth?
Yeah, I do.
From the youth? Do you not see it? I see it daily.
How many
Is it not rampant in the high school? She sees it, she can't sit there and say it isn't, it is.
It's crazy.
But it doesn't just start at the high school. Do you want me to really break your hearts? It's down at the elementary level.
It starts at home. is where it
But it's at
starts.
home too. I mean,
It is.
Kids out of Walmart or something wanting a toy or something, their mother says no. And he went ahead and picked it up off the shelf and he said, I'm getting it whether you want me to or not. He put it in the cart and she paid for it. My mother would have taken that side at that time.
Now, my children are fiery, they will say exactly what you just said, but they get their butt busted right then and
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Whereas,
But that's what,
people
it-
don't do that anymore.
that's what needs to happen.
But it's,
Well, you gotta be careful nowadays, you get
Yeah.
in trouble nowadays out there at the
oh,
store.
absolutely, my kids get their butt, I don't care.
They
who's
act
watching.
different when it's just their mother.
That really good point, because my kids, they will try and walk all over Ashley like it ain't nothing. But as soon as I step into the picture, they know that business is being meant. And I'm like, look, you've got to stand firm to it too. I can't be just me going up against the kids and teaching them the discipline. It's got to be a joint effort.
And that's a big problem in today's society, a lot of families aren't together too.
There's a Christian comedian that talks about that. It was in some store and a child was in the cart, cleaned off a whole 8-foot shelf of cans in the floor. And the mama said, now honey, you better stop that or we're gonna have a timeout. The comedian said, timeout? If I'd have done that, it would have been a knockout. Now, the knockout may have been too severe, but the point is, the child has to be raised up in the way that it should go, and it's biblical, or he's not going to amount to.
Okay, what is the biblical part about it? I love hearing everything y'all say, but to raise a child, we're to raise that child to the admonition of the Lord.
If you spare the rod, you spoil the child.
Well, but don't just go to that point. Don't stick to the just, it does say that in there, but go to the point. If we teach enough about God, and we teach about the ways of God, and the things that they need to hear, that they'll know that what they would be doing is not justified. What they would be doing is not the right
It
thing.
is
Talking
right.
back to an elder is wrong. I knew that when I was a kid. But I mean, it was yes, sir, yes, ma'am. Nowadays, they look at me and they'll say, what? And I understand what you're saying, but I can't. I can say, look, you won't talk to me that way, and that's exactly what I do. And I try to teach them, but I do agree, it starts at home. But this is home. This spot right here is home.
I mean, they're at school almost more than they're at home,
That's
so.
very true.
But let's think about church as home. We've got to help.
It doesn't happen here at church, but in a lot of homes, the child is not necessarily taught, but the gist of it is, whatever somebody gets old, well, they throw them out with the trash. That don't amount to nothing. They're too old. They can't do nothing. They can't even talk. They can't do this. They can't do that. But that has got to have some place to be turned around, because the old is what got mom and dad of the child to where they're at.
Amen.
Your wisdom.
And how do we do that? The church has to speak up with a remedy for that. Come on, people. Do you realize who got you where you're at? Do you know how you have a home? Do you know this? Do you know that? And I'm not tooting my own horn. I am stating a fact. If you just go out on a street corner and watch, you'll see it.
I'm going to ask you this. Do you see the parallel between the issues that was described here and all of three? Because I had to read it all. And especially 4 and 5 with the world today. You see where it parallels?
And that is, well, I made the mistake one time of calling America, the new Israel, and they didn't let me finish before they jumped all over me, but there is so many things in America that is happening that happened back in the olden days of Israel, and time after time after time, God tried to help them, but they get to a point, He'd get them hauled off to someplace else. Babylon, how many times? Someplace else another time. But so far we haven't been hauled off, but who knows, it might be coming.
Okay, well, then what you're saying, if I'm getting you right, you're telling me that we can learn lessons from this.
Yes, we can.
From Isaiah. We can learn lessons from what is being said right here. Because this passage tells us about the importance of godly leadership. Godly leadership. All right? These people were not only, I mean, I could have went on and I probably should have. I mean, I should have read the entire thing. Because they're also, what are they not doing? They're not practicing what? They weren't practicing Christian ways, were they?
Well, they're not even showing respect. And respect it's lacking every place today.
Oh, it is.
I mean, when I was in school, if a student talked back to a teacher, they got spanked from the teacher, and then to the principal, and then when they got home, they got another one. And my parents told us when we started school, if you get a spanking at school, you better tell us when you get home, because if you don't tell us, you're going to get another one when you get home. It just, and children are allowed to talk back to their parents. My daddy didn't spank, Mom did, but Daddy rarely did. And we were sitting there getting ready to just finish supper and watch the news, and that's when we got up to do the dishes next. And I was sitting on the couch, and Becky was sitting back across from me. And Becky, I know you don't believe this, but she's kind of a mounted one in our family. And Mom said, "All right, girls, it's time to go wash dishes." And Becky was shaking her head like this. And I was responding to Becky, and I said, "That's what you think." Daddy thought I was talking to Mama. He had me jerked up off that couch and whipped me before I could even get another word out of my mouth. And I finally, after I quit crying, I said, "I was talking to Becky, he's Bart, but just in case you ever think about being disrespectful, you just remember that." I am 69 years old, and I would not talk back to my parents for anything. But we were expected to treat people with respect. You called the elders in your church, you called them Mr. and Mrs., and your teachers you were respectful to, and the principal.
Oh, yes.
And they don't, that's not as common today as it was.
All right, you being a high school student, so we'll pick on you now. What do you think? Do you think students up there respect teachers?
No, not at all. I'm guilty of myself disrespecting the teacher. But I will say today in class is an easy humanities grade. It's music appreciation. We do nothing in that class. Mr. Floyd, the teacher, he went up to this kid and he said, "Will you please move to the seat up there?" Because he didn't want these boys sitting together. This kid sat in that chair and told him no repeatedly. And he said, "I ain't doing nothing wrong." And he got all up in Mr. Floyd's face and told him he would not move and that he could do whatever he wants. And Mr. Franklin came with him. And it was as simple as moving two
And that's why I couldn't be a teacher.
Yeah.
It was a power struggle for the kid.
Yeah, it was 2 chairs away. It was some freshman. But it was 2 chairs away.
Okay, but this also goes on in our leadership today.
Yeah.
Not only, I mean, I'm not going to just point out
It's
politics.
yeah.
It goes on in a church, guys. The same type of things goes on in churches. As simple as having a big fallout on what type of color, what color to get the carpet.
You had one on what color to paint the walls when you first got.
There it is. Here it is. You don't have to make these things up. The disrespect is there. The doing it where it's not godly and forgetting who really we're doing this for and who we're here for.
Pride.
Oh,
Pride
yeah.
is a big one.
And it's the world, we let the world tell us how to act. When we should be listening to God on how we should act. And well, It's coming again this Sunday, so you guys are not going to be new to it. It's
Well,
getting-
it's like when Jesus went to the temple and threw over the tables of the money changers. You know, that he said, you turn my father's house into a den of sin. You're stealing money from people and you're proclaiming they have to buy a certain sheep or something that you're selling to them. It's not a place of worship anymore. It's a place it's to make money.
Right,
And there's some churches that's what their big goal is. This is what our offering was this week. Next week, we want to make it 10% more, so don't forget to dig in those pockets and give.
Majority of them, nowadays, it seems like.
I was told the other day, I was told the other day, I don't think we're getting off base with this, but that a person had to fill out a questionnaire and you had to say how much what your 10% was going to be to join that church.
A friend of mine, that's a church she went to, they had moved, and they were going to have to switch churches because it was a different town. And she said in the visitor's packet, it said, if you're interested in joining the church, these are the requirements. And it was attend at least 50% of the time, 10% tithing, and they had to have proof of your income, checks W-2. And, she said there was a list of about 10 things, that in order for you to be a member of this church, you have to do these 10 things to be a member. You had to be on a committee, and you had to help out at like their festivals and things like that. And she said, I thought, good grief, I filled out job applications, it didn't take that long to fill it out.
Okay, so do you feel like that's disrespecting God?
Yes,
100%.
that's not the purpose of worship.
Amen.
And you talk about that, because in one case I heard that they went further than that. They give the paper out and filled it all out and handed it back in, and the people in charge handed it back to them and said, I don't care whether this is 10% enough or not, it's not enough. You gotta give more. And that actually did happen, but to me, that's not godly.
That's not a church, it's a business.
No, yeah, it is.
Does this passage challenge us personally? And if so, how does this passage that I just read, how do they challenge us personally?
We need to evaluate ourselves, and if that's in there, then we need to change ourselves, plus we need to speak up. Go out on the street corner and say, hey, look, this is not what church is. This is disrespectful of God, and whatever else wording that you want to use, let it be known.
I could probably get fired for this, but I do it all the time anyway. If I'm standing there and a child is talking to their parents on the phone and they're telling their parents what's going to happen and what they got to do, I usually voice my opinion once they get off the phone. And I let them know that that's your parents that you spoke to, and that was totally disrespectful. And then they try to get disrespectful with me, and that's when it ends. But it is, you know, you can sit here and say, and Zach, you were getting close to what a lot of parents live under, the fear. The fear of going to jail. The fear of, you know, kids had more rights than we ever had as kids, but we didn't worry about those. But nowadays, kids can call social services on you. Kids can call all these people on you for the things that you're doing.
My mom said, here's the phone, I'll dial the number for you. I'm gonna go that route.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that it is active now. Then it was a threat, now it's active.
Yeah.
And parents live that way, and that's causing a lot of this. And that's the government getting involved, the leadership getting involved where they probably didn't need to be.
They're involved in a lot of things that they didn't need to be.
More spiritual than it is politics.
So,
More.
When you take a child that comes from such an emotional place, all their decision making is very emotional. And then you have like a government entity or whatever giving it life and acting like that's
Using
fact,
their own
like the
narrative.
feeling is fact, that's, I mean, I
If
think
you ask
that
your girls,
is.
tell you I'm over to bed, they probably say 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock.
Yeah, they don't, yeah, and they know that you might feel like you can stay up that late and you want to, but your feeling is not going to dictate anything.
Gotcha. But okay, let's also look at this. I mean, we have got we'll stick with the youth for right now. All right, you've got these young people that have grown up this way. And how does that, so we asked earlier, does this affect the society? If these children grow up that way, it affects our society.
Absolutely.
And that's where, this is where churches really have got to get back involved. And churches have got to start helping parents. And because it's hard for you to parent when these kids go to school and they see 1,600 of them doing it this way, and you're telling them not to do it this way.
Yet we've been doing that a lot.
You understand what I'm saying? And that's the
Very
numbers, you're outnumbered. So you need help. You need more numbers this way to help you be able to, and we don't need to, there is so much that everyone, in other words, everyone's against each other. Man against man. Well, I can tell you right now, I don't know how many times you take a cell phone from a kid because it's distracted them, and you put it in the office. The first thing that parent does is call and say, give them their cell phone back.
I see, they shouldn't.
And does it not happen? Does it not happen?
That's crazy.
It does, but my mom will tell me.
Absolutely, in school.
But, trust me, we won't go down that road. But that's your parental decision, you understand? A lot of them, I can understand why they have them.
Used to be, we weren't allowed to have them at school.
They have them
Even if you
for,
had it, it stayed in your bag.
now, they use them for all the wrong reasons, just like adults use them for all the wrong reasons. When they get to school, they continue to use them for social media. When they're there, if they need picked up after school, or if they need, if there's practices running a little late, or practice, it's a form of communication form that they didn't have before. I can understand it.
Okay.
That's a good point. But like I said, it's used for all the wrong reasons. I mean, it's used to sit there and look at TikToks. It's used to sit there and look at all the social media. And you can't get them off of it. It's no different than they're staying up till 4 o'clock in the morning doing the exact same thing, and they go to sleep when they get to school.
And it carries through even to the adult, not cell phone, but somebody that's in the habit of speeding and has got the radar detector, and they have things that floor and beep, 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 oh, gotta slow down.
I do.
Do you,
I can say.
do you realize though that the safety part ends when you're not going with the flow of traffic? It works both ways. If you've got traffic that's doing 70 miles an hour and you're out there doing 45, your accident ready to happen. If you're doing 100 and the flow is 50, another accident ready to happen.
Can't argue that. I'm on. Okay. Good point.
We should get back to the churches. What
Church.
the churches need to do is to strengthen the families that attend the church
Amen.
and back them up in it. And that way, I don't mean you have to be in everybody's home, but as a group of parents, those of us who've been parents for a long time, and the new parents, to support each other. That if you don't let your child have their phone out in church, I'm not going to let my child have their phone out in church. Because that's not fair for their child to see mine on the phone in church.
I've even told other kids, hey, put that down.
Because, they're not paying attention. And I've had one teenager tell me that he was reading the Bible on the phone. I could see what he was reading, and it was not the Bible. It was on the phone.
So, how do we stop that?
Leave out down.
We gotta have parenting groups come together.
Have hard conversations.
We have to have parenting groups come together. You don't want to do it in front of the church. You don't want to do it in front of a bunch of
No.
people. You want to bring it in and just have a conversation like we're having right now. You know, and let those ideas come up and let them decide it themselves. You know, well, it does need to stop. But then, okay, but then that comes right back on them, because you know how many adults tell me, well, I use that for my Bible app. Well, then we need to start issuing Bibles.
We have Bibles, they're all over the church.
But if those are not good, well, then we need to, you know what I'm saying? You've got to be prepared to face these. I agree with you 100%. But you got to be prepared to face them. Does it need to happen? Yes. Is it going to happen overnight? No. I mean, to the point it could possibly cause people to go away and not come back.
If that's the case, they don't need to be here.
But, well, we can't look at it that way.
Well,
All right?
but the
We
thing
can't.
is, if that offends them, that they can't keep their phones out during church, then what does it say about whether they're worshiping God or just sitting here being a pew warmer?
Well, that makes that phone become a false idol.
It does. I mean, and I keep my phone with me most of the time at home, especially I'm on it more than I need to be. But it stays in my purse during church.
But we don't know what they're going through, just like, I'm never getting on my phone. Just like I'm going through his job stuff. And I hate being disrespectful. Like I feel so bad trying to keep track of everybody. So we don't know what anybody's going through, but they're making it here. We don't know what anybody's going through, but I get both sides. You know, as long as they're making it to be with, priority, they make it, because sometimes that can be a lot for some of us just
Just to get here.
here. So, but I understand each side 100%.
Oh, don't trust me. I'm not going to go out here and I'm not going to stand back there on Sunday and say, you can't have your cell phone. Put it in that little pouch over there. I'm not going to do that. Huh?
I think it's disrespectful, but you never know what somebody's going through.
Right, you're correct. But, okay, there's some people that have heartburn with disrespect. A lot of that was talked about in those two verses, disrespecting the elders. Who is the oldest here? God. So you're disrespecting Him. When you wear a hat in this house, you're disrespecting Him. When you pull out your cell phone, you're disrespecting Him. You're not disrespecting God, Davis. You're disrespecting God. I mean, there's no other way to look at it. But we can't say, you know, I used to, I was one of those that couldn't stand to hear when it starts, it's all because of home. And then I was one of those that jumped in there when I first became a teacher and said, well, you're right, it's all because of home. And now I'm one of those that, well, this is home. You know? And I've got to help you. I got to help you. I got to help you. I got to help him. I got to help us all. I got to help her understand that I don't care if you don't like that person, pray for that person. All right? You should love that person. You don't have to socialize with them, but you love them. All right? And just because you don't like that teacher, you're not going to hang out with them at Burger King because you work at Dairy Queen. But you're just not going to do it. So don't, and you guys, you could, both of you right now could be just bottled up and just ready to bust loose with so much hatred right now. But you don't, because God may be involved in all of this.
He is.
All right? He did. Thank you. He is.
He is. He always is.
So, and that's the way we got to look at it. We can't look at it our human aspect. Well, I just got fired. Blah, blah. Well, maybe I needed to be out of here.
I mean, I said there was one of the guys, he even threatened the wife of my children. He still works there. And I could have thrown him under the bus in a heartbeat. But I never want to talk bad about him.
Good.
Because it's not what we're meant to do.
No,
We're
it is
supposed to
not.
pray for the ones, especially the ones that hurt us most.
Amen.
That's hard.
It's
Amen.
tough, but
So we cannot be man against
I
man.
thank God that I was able to do it.
And still continue.
Cannot be man against man, cannot be neighbor against neighbor, cannot do those things.
Well, like you said, it starts at home. Well, just because it starts at home doesn't mean you have to allow it. We have to be the influence to change it.
Okay, but what changes homes? You want to know what changes homes?
Kid.
Love is part of it, but where does the love come from? What changes homes is you accepting Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. That's what, it changes you. How's it not going to change your home?
Right.
And your church and your community.
It changes it all. This lady right here can sit down and just fill your ears full. How much God changed me. And I am so happy for it. My children, I was horrible.
Your mother can also do that.
But I never treated her bad.
No, she said you didn't.
I did bad things
But she said if.
that were disrespectful to her.
He said when
It's no difference than you go out here and you leave here tonight and you go out here and you pick up the phone and start cussing everybody that fired you. Then, did you listen to what I told you? Or did you listen to what God told you? You know, that's what you got to say. Because you don't want to do that. And hard times are upon all of us. And it's going to get worse. Jim says that so much, and God bless this man. I don't know how his mind is just not just... If anybody should be mad with some of the stuff that he has shown me, that it is... it's horrible. It is absolutely horrible. And I mean, it's just like he knows that our country had something to do with what's going on over there in that war. But yet we've got it hidden. You know, these things, if you sit down and read Isaiah, especially the first few chapters, they're talking about us. They're talking about this world repeating exactly what they did. They're talking about us not doing the things that we need to do. You know, it's just got to change. But it changes right here. It starts at home. And home is where your heart is. There's a little sign up there, isn't it? Home is where your heart is. We don't have that one. What do we have? We got something. Something about life, happiness, I don't know. She puts it over
Live
there.
by love.
Yeah.
She thinks I don't read them. I do. But home is where the heart is. My heart is Jesus Christ. So,
Don't they call that our eternal home?
amen. But that's...
It's said to us in the Bible that that's home.
That is where we need to start. I mean, Alan says it so many times. It's got to start right here. And it's got to start right now. And the more we do to start it, the better we're going to be.
We need to visualize up underneath that "Come unto me" sign, what you just said. It starts here and it starts now.
Did this discussion go where it wanted it to? No, but I'll tell you, it was a good one. It was things that needed to be said. It was things that we needed to get off our heart. Was it on track with where where Isaiah was talking about? Yes. We are a rebellious country, whether we want to believe it or not. There are so many people. There is more people out there rebelling Christ than they are accepting Christ. And that is what we're seeing.